But then again, Jay does do his talking in his lyrics, because that's what we've known him for. We don't know him for doing interviews. We know him for doing lyrics, right? And so that's so he does a lot of the talking in his lyrics. But however, his last album was 444, and that hasn't come out since 2000. That's been since 2018, like a couple years before COVID. You know what I mean? He addressed there's a lot of people who are disgruntled with Jay-Z's success. I watched a DeHaven interview, and DeHaven talked about his drug dealing days with Jay-Z, and how he kind of he put Jay-Z on, and Jay-Z admits to that in his music. You know what I mean? He put Jay-Z on. He covered him in a lot of ways. And backed him up. It's still hard to pinpoint what DeHaven is upset about. Because when DeHaven talks about his history with Jay-Z back in them days, it's very much like Jay-Z wasn't perpetrating. He's not a gangster. He's a hustler. You know what I mean? And I think not everybody in the streets is a gangster. I do believe that. You know what I mean? I do believe there's people who are about their money, and then there's people who are about their violence. It is what it is. And then there's people who are about their money, but will do it will do the violence if it has to come down to it. Maybe not. Jay may or may not strike me as that person. I don't know. I wasn't there. Statute of limitations, leave me out of it. When people blueprint, pun intended, right? Blueprint Jay-Z, blueprint. When people blueprint Jay-Z's success, it has a very much of a negative connotation. I do believe that Jay-Z's success is very Machiavellian in a sense, whereas like as they describe, he whatchamacallit, he uses people as stepping stones. You know what I mean? And he's done this all throughout the 90s. He's done this pretty much throughout his entire life. Of course, DeHaven, his tenure with DeHaven in the streets was one of them. From what's been described, where he used DeHaven to mentor him into the streets until he could promote himself pretty much, right? And then he got with Dame. From the stories that I've heard, DJ Clark Kent reached out to him, and said, hey, yo, put that money down, put that bag down, and come get this bag. You're a really talented guy. And it probably took a lot for Jay to do that. You know what I mean? He used Jaz-O as a stepping stone, kind of piggybacking his name and whatnot. You know what I mean? Like when people describe his success, it's always on the backs of somebody else. You know what I mean? And he just ladders his way up. But then at the end of the day, like Jaz-O says it all the time, like he don't owe me nothing. You know what I mean? It was up to me to my success is up to me, and just because he rode my back with it, and there's some people, like Jaz-O is one of those people, one of them stand-up guys who don't necessarily look at it the way everybody else do. You know what I mean? You can understand why maybe DeHaven would be upset. You can understand why XYZ would be upset, X person and Y person would be upset. But then at the end of the day, it's like, what does he owe anybody? And he says that, Jay says that in his lyrics. I don't owe nobody shit. You know what I mean? But that's important for men to understand. This is a man's conversation. I do believe. You know what I'm saying? This is very much a man's conversation. It's important for men to understand that don't nobody owe you nothing. Like don't nobody owe you nothing. With an F, nothing. You know what I mean? Like you gotta get up and like Outkast said, you gotta get up, get out, and get something. You know what I'm saying? I remember a Nas lyric when Nas was like, how you hating on the next man to make you rich? If he giving you money, he deserved that head you get, and he deserved your bitch. Like, yo, what? Crazy. First of all, I want to say this about golden era hip hop, late 90s, early 2000s hip hop. Like let's lay this game down quite flat. It was a very chauvinistic era. It was a very chauvinistic macho era. First of all, we had gangster rap in the late 80s, right? We had gangster rap in the late 80s. We know everything that come with gangster rap, from the NWA album to the Snoop Dogg album. We knew everything that came with that. The costume that was gangster rap. And from the late 80s to the early 90s, we saw that, right? Then from the early 90s to the mid 90s, you had the Wu-Tang era. This was my hip hop experience, right? You had the Wu-Tang era, right? Where it was all about grunginess, griminess, grittiness, Tim's, baggy everything. You know what I'm saying? Like out the wazoo, Tommy Hilfiger polo, all that, right? You had that. Rugby's every day, hockey jerseys every day. You know what I mean? It was all of that. You know what I'm saying? North Faces, gold fronts, races in the mouth. That was the era I grew up in. You know what I'm saying? If you know, you know. Then came the shiny suits with Puffy in them, right? Can't stop, won't stop. Rollie on the wrist, diamonds in the air. Pop your bottles. This is a trip down memory lane for real. Right? That was the shiny suit era. This is the late 90s and the 2000s. So now like rappers and rap labels are getting money hand over fist at this point. This is before Napster. This is before MP3s. This is before streaming. You know what I'm saying? It was just money straight up. You was counting album sales, raw album sales at the cash register. You know what I'm saying? All day long, straight up. You know what I mean? And you know, a lot of rappers, you know, when you have fame, there's nothing worse than fame and money. Like, no. Terrible. Yeah, you know, there's nothing worse than fame plus money. That's a hell of a drug. You know what I'm saying? More than crack and coke combined. You know but you know, you will always hear stories. You will hear people talk about, you know, oh, the music industry, this and the music industry that. Oh, it's just terrible. Just oh. You know what I mean? And you know, you would see these moguls at the top. You know what I'm saying? And they would present this image like they, you know, like they really got it going on. And in a lot of ways, they did. You know what I mean? And they inspired a lot of these Instagram scammers and grifters. You know what I'm saying? They inspired a lot of them. And you know, they would talk about it in their music all the time about, you know, buying chicks bottles, going on shopping sprees. What's the song? No more shopping sprees, no more VIPs. Right? Remember that shit? And so they would talk about it all the time in their music. You know what I mean? About how much, you know, they'll treat a woman and they'll take your girl, and it was always about taking your girl. It was always about what the fuck is it? What is it about taking somebody's girl? Like, I don't get it. But yeah, that was the thing. What better way to stunt and flaunt your money and your status and your power and your macho than to steal someone else's girl, right? Like that was always a thing. Now it's been like that from the beginning of time, since humanity began, right? It's always been that way. But this is, once again, like hip hop knows how to do best, to glorify it and exemplify it and accentuate it and romanticize it, right? This is where hip hop does best. You know what I mean? So when you take a person, like you take someone whose success seems damn near automatic, but it's very calculated, like Jay-Z, and then someone whose success is very perseverant and very Bogart, like Dame Dash. You know what I mean? You create pretty much a two-headed monster. You know what I mean? Like it's like they said in the movie, in the movie they made, get down or lay down. You know what I mean? I can only imagine what being around someone like Dame Dash was like when Rockefeller was the hottest thing on earth. You know what I mean? I can only imagine what women were like, the dainty morsels that women were to him. You know what I'm saying? Guys like him and guys like Puffy. You know what I mean? You know, the media's gonna media, right? The media's gonna media. And so yeah, you know, Jay ain't talking, so you talking, so let's talk about Jay, right? Let's do it. And it's understandable his frustration. You know what I'm saying? It's understandable his frustration. But you're the only one talking. You're the only one interviewing. Jay don't do interviews. Like and like he's in a position where he don't have to do interviews. He don't need the media and the publicity and the press. He's in a boss position right now. Like, when the last time he put an album out? Come on, son. You know, Jay is gonna leave it in the air. He's gonna stay, you know, in his bubble, you know, and enjoy his wife and kids, and you know, continually make his money however which way he's making his billions. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he intends to keep it that way for as long as he can. Now he did clap back hard when he saw the little Tony Busby shakedown. He said, "Hold my jacket, dog. Hold my jacket." What we doing? What's up? What we doing? Is this what it's come to? I was like, oh, he in album mode right about now. Let's go. I'm waiting for the bars. You know.